Ahoy everyone, it's Jeff, also known as Scummer, and welcome to my very first live stream on my brand new channel, History with Scummer. As I said in my opening video to this channel, please note I am not a historian myself. I just have an interest, and also, I want to learn a bit as I go with this. So I thought we'd start this brand new venture off with doing what I think a lot of people have done reactions to this, or to these guys. We're going to start with OverSimplified. Now, if you've not checked out OverSimplified or the original video or so on, link to the original video is in the chat. Please go and subscribe to OverSimplified. They're a wonderful channel, and they put so much work into their videos. And I think it's only like one or two guys that do this. And please go and give OverSimplified a bit of love, honestly. So we're going to start with OverSimplified's Russian Revolution, and we're just going to do part one of that today. Sometime later this week or so, we're going to do part two. So shall we jump right into it then? Let's add this to stream. Okay, let's go then. OverSimplified's Russian Revolution.
NordVPN. Click on the link in the description below to get an amazing 68% off a 2-year plan. Also, commemorating the weirdest bromance in history. Get your new character pins and Russian Revolution merch available now. Link.
I'll just say before we get started, this I'm quite happy to leave the adverts into this one with these guys, because you probably do some of the funniest use of adverts I've ever seen anybody do. So with sponsors and so on. So
down below. Hey Jimmy, it's the 1800s, an exciting time to be alive. Why don't you get out there and explore the world? Gee whiz, Mom, thanks. This place is amazing. Where am I? Why, you're in France, my boy. Here we come up with wacky new ways of running a country. Liberty, equality, fraternity. Whoa, welcome to the United Kingdom. Here we invented the train. Whoa, aboard! Holy smokes! You're in a German factory, my friend. Here we harness fire and cold, create only sexy leaders. This is incredible. I can't wait to see where I'll end up next.
Russia. Yes, we'll get into this. Russia. Russia in some ways you could say probably not as developed as countries in Western Europe at this time. It's still very much still got its sort of medieval serfdom kind of structure and so on, and largely agrarian sort of population. So
where am I? You're in Russia. Have I gone back in time? No, this is just how it is. Are you a farmer? Worse. Technically, my landlord owns me, which makes me a serf.
Yeah.
I'm scared. You should be, because I haven't eaten in 4 days, and you look pretty tasty. Hey, Jimmy, how are your travels? I hate you!
See what I mean? Quite funny, aren't they?
Russia in the 19th century, feudal, underdeveloped, and stuck in the past. While the rest of Europe had been modernizing and improving their citizens' lives, Russia's rulers were taking a different approach. My lord, we're falling behind the rest of Europe. It's time to industrialize, give the people rights, and share your power. Russian czars had no time for pathetic ideas like liberty and modernization, because they were too busy having the time of their lives, while the serfs were breaking their backs in the fields.
Yeah, kind of true. I'm sure we'll get to it at some point, but a lot of some of the Russian czars weren't that interested in sort of progressing along those lines, or I mean, one or two of them would be a bit more progressive about infrastructure and stuff, but a lot of them weren't.
The czars held all the power, and they didn't have to listen to anyone. Want to run the country like a backwards feudal kingdom while the rest of Europe outpaces you militarily and economically? Go right ahead. Want to keep the people uneducated so they don't get any ideas? There's no one to stop you. Want to keep exporting grain even when there's a massive famine causing hundreds of thousands to die? That is your God-given right. While all of this
Yeah, it's quite a sad thing as well. Actually, in a lot of famines, there's probably food available, but don't let things get in the way of the market. I think about the Ireland's a good example. For example,
This was great for the Tsar. If you were literally anybody else, it probably sucked because Russia was falling behind. If they were to keep up with Europe, they'd need a strong ruler with some big ideas. Oh look, here comes one now. Hey everyone, it's me, Tsar Alexander II, and I've got some big news. I'm releasing you all from your serfdom.
Yeah, so this is Alexander II. He was one of the guys who did try to modernize a bit, but you'll see this won't always go. This might not go. This won't go the way. This won't go that well for him.
All free. Yep, I'm the best. Oh, there is one thing though. I spoke to your local lords and they weren't happy about losing all their free labor. So as a compromise, you're all going to have to pay them back a near impossible amount of money for the next 49 years. Expect your lives to barely change. Okay, bye. Now I know what you're thinking. This Tsar Alexander II seems like a pretty cool guy. He's trying to...
Here's the problem, you sort of change something, but it's not really changed. And I think it's quite often, I think this is, you can be in somewhat of a, I think sometimes some of the big dangers with if you're a ruling class of revolution is getting people's hopes up falsely, actually, rather than anything else. It's when people have had their hopes raised and then you take that away from them.
Reform the country and get Russia on the right path. Everyone must love this guy, right? Wrong. Why does one man get to decide the fate of everyone in the country? This whole system is dumb. Somebody should do something. Like what? Like kill the Tsar. You're going to kill the Tsar? Well, me? No. I'm busy. I was kind of hoping you'd do it. Okay. See? The people love you. They're throwing flowers, confetti, and high-grade explosives. Okay, Nicholas, your grandfather has a mild case.
Okay, yeah, this happens. The assassination of Alexander II. It was a bomb thrown at him. I've got a feeling, it's been a while since I've read about it, but I've got a feeling one of the attackers died in the attack as well. Some have even argued that it might have been a suicide bombing. But there was a group in Russia called the Narodniks. These were sort of political radicals, very much based in the sort of countryside in Russia, with amongst they sort of based their struggle more within the rural peasantry and so on. They were sort of so a lot of the philosophy in that behind Narodniks, and it's going to be taken on by a party called the Social Revolutionaries during the time of the Russian Revolution. Now, the Social Revolutionaries, they're a bit different from the Bolsheviks. I should explain that with Lenin's Bolsheviks were, again, that their sort of base was more of in the, industrialized working class in Russia. But as I said, that was a sort of tiny amount of people. The majority of people in Russia were still, sort of rural peasants, and a lot of the social revolutionary support kind of came. That's where a lot of their support base came from. But I'm sure we're gonna get into that, I'm sure, at some bit more at some point.
Case of being blown up by a terrorist, and he's not looking too hot. So we're gonna go say our goodbyes, okay? No, it'll be too scary for him. Nonsense, it won't be scary at all. We're just gonna say a quick goodbye. Ready? Boy!
Oh!
Look at me! The people did this to me! And one day, they'll do it to you! See? Wasn't scary at all. Alexander II was dead, but luckily they had another Alexander lying around.
Okay, something else I meant to mention about the Narodniks. Vladimir Lenin's brother was a Narodnik himself. Lenin would actually, he'd be quite critical of the Narodniks and their tactics and so on, but not necessarily you should necessarily say for any particularly benevolent reason or whatever. It's just, again, I'm sure we'll get into this a bit more in a minute. I'll explain why.
Alexander III, and he felt his dad's reforms had weakened the Tsar's authority. Russia was massive, and as a result, had many ethnic minorities. Non-Russians, more interested in their own cultural heritage than in loving meat. Isn't it great? So much beautiful culture and diversity in our great nation. Alexander thought all these might...
Yeah, I don't think that's overly gone away to this day, actually. So, yeah, that's what I'll say. That's all I'll say about that.
Minorities should be a little more Russian, and thereby loyal to him. So he repressed religious minorities. He repressed non-Russians. He introduced the Okhrana, a secret police force that repressed anybody who thought having a czar was dumb. If Alexander II was the great reformer, Alexander III was the great repressor. Now that's how you run a country. Hey, Dad? Ugh, great. It's my son Nicholas, who I like to call a girly girl because he's so weak and pathetic. When are you gonna grow up? You still look like a girly girl to me. But Dad, I grew a beard. Yeah, an ugly girly girl beard. If Nicholas was to one day be czar, he needed his dad to teach him how to run the country. But his dad instead suggested that Nicholas...
Yeah, spoiler alert, that ain't gonna happen. Yeah. Oh, that's right. I do recall when he was young, he did go to Japan for a while.
Somewhere else. So Nicholas went to Japan, got an edgy dragon tattoo, had his head sliced off by a policeman, and then came home. Now will you teach me how to rule?
Okay, I believe there's some truth in that thing with a head injury from the sword or something. I'm not. That's something I've got to look into. Okay, I'll try and have a look into that after I've done this stream. But I do believe there's some truth in that.
I suppose it's time. Okay, there's a lot you need to know before becoming czar. Uh-oh. What? I've got kidney inflammation.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Upon his father's death, a totally unprepared Nicholas II ascended to the Russian throne. He wasn't a reformer like his grandfather, nor was he a repressor like his dad. Nicholas was Nicholas. Timid, easily swayed, and more interested in doing whatever the hell this is. Or this. Or this. He wasn't ready to rule, and he himself admitted it, saying, I'm not yet ready to be czar. I know nothing of the business of ruling. Bit of an awkward time to bring it up. However, Nicholas firmly...
Yeah, and that's true. Nicholas II was not. He wasn't ready for this task, and he wasn't cut out for it in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of people have sort of said that Poe apparently he was actually a pretty decent. He was a fairly decent human being, but he was just completely ill-equipped to be Tsar of Russia. Quite frankly, this guy, he just gets everything wrong, really, and
believe that he was chosen by God to be Russia's big daddy. And while he doubted his ability to rule, he was going to give it his best shot. And hey, who knows? Maybe he wouldn't be so bad after all. To get things off to a good start, Nicholas promised free pretzels and beer to a huge crowd in Moscow to celebrate his coronation.
Oh, yeah.
So enticing a proposition to starving peasants that the ensuing stampede left nearly 1,500 people dead. What the hell happened?
Yeah, the Kadinka tragedy, and you might think that bit about like the free pretzels and beer and whatever is a joke. It's not. It's not that this was sort of a celebration that was put on. It actually took place several days after the coronation. But this was so that the festivities, were going on, and yeah, there was things like pretzels and sausages, and were given out to people, and there was around like 20 bars sort of put up temporarily, and yeah, the whole thing was a disaster. And Nicholas I might mention this in a minute, but Nicholas, his response to it was not good. Yeah.
We're not sure, but you're scheduled to go party with the French at 8 o'clock. Shouldn't I say here out of respect for the people? When have Russians ever respected the people?
Yeah, that's just what I mean. This is what I mean. He does go to a ball that's being done with his honour with a lot of international guests. It's just something I'll say about oversimplified things here. I do believe one of Nicholas's Grand Dukes actually tried to advise him not to go to this thing. Nicholas didn't listen. So it's not a good. I mean, look, this is like not a good way to start out your reign as monarch here, is it? It's not good.
Nicholas's decision to go party with the French immediately tarnished his image. Some were calling him Nicholas the Bloody. The Tsars had been partying hard at the expense of the people for long enough. They'd emancipated the serfs, but failed to lift them out of poverty. They used their secret police to crack down on anyone who might criticize them, and they failed to modernize and give the people rights, something the rest of Europe had begun doing over a century ago. The rule of the Tsars was quickly becoming outdated, and more Russians began wondering if there was a better way. For many, the solution was simple. Just look to the West. Republics, democracies, and constitutional monarchies galore. But a small growing group rejected that for an even better idea. A little something they called communism. Take Vladimir Lenin, an intelligent member of Russia's middle class, and also a massive ill-tempered jerk. If you disagreed with him about anything,
he could be, without a doubt. He definitely could be. He's a bit more complicated in this sort of caricature, I think, that's given of him. I'll just say that much. But yeah, it's. I mean, there's definitely were times when Lenin had to argue within his own party I don't think he necessarily always got his way, but a lot of the time he did. So, he wasn't. I don't think he was great about people disagreeing with him.
Isn't afraid to call you out, you fat-headed, simple-minded, vapid, cockeyed imbecile. Tenderheart Bear is a far superior Care Bear to Bedtime Bear. And he was no stranger to political unrest either. His older brother was executed for plotting to kill the Tsar, and Lenin himself was expelled.
Yeah, remember I said his older brother was a Narodnik. And I should just say again, Lenin was critical of the Narodniks and things his brother was into. And again, as I said, mainly because obviously Lenin's a Marxist, and the Narodniks are obviously based very much their struggle around rural peasantry and so on. Lenin's a Bolshevik. He's a Marxist. So he very much believes, in sort of struggle within, the industrial working class, the proletariat. That's he's very much following Marx in that respect,
From university for participating in a student protest. But how did Lenin go from being a middle-class nerd to the arbiter of socialist divinity? Well, to tell that story, we first need to go back a few decades to when a man named Karl Marx wrote a manifesto explaining how capitalism is a system whereby the stinky bourgeoisie oppressed and exploited the working masses, and that only through class warfare could the workers rise up in an instated communist utopia. Now go back forward a few decades to Lenin reading that manifesto and loving it. But publicly admitting you loved Marx and not Russia's big daddy would get you the cruelest punishment imaginable. Exile to Siberia. Enjoy exile, where you'll live with your wife, chill around town, and secretly write socialist newspapers.
Yeah, and again, look, whatever you think of communism now or whatever, and how it turned out in the Soviet Union, you got to bear in mind that this probably seemed like a fantastic idea to a lot of people at the time. It hadn't. I mean, the only place where you'd ever had anything remotely like it was the Paris Commune of 1871, which sort of happened at the end of the Franco-Prussian War. But I mean, that was more like the Paris sort of almost found itself in being run by the working class, but that only lasted about two months or so, and it was never going to survive in one city by itself like that. I mean, there were other communes and so on in France. I think there was one in Grenoble as well, but the Paris Commune's the famous one. But this, this hadn't really been done, and by the time of the Paris Commune, Marx is still. He's still even though this is quite a way after he's written the Communist Manifesto. The Paris Commune does alter some of his thinking as well. He helps. He does come up with theories and so on that are based on the events in Paris.
Hey, that doesn't sound so bad. And your mother-in-law is going to live with you.
Once
Lenin finished his sentence,
not the mother-in-law. And just one other thing as well. When Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto and so on, when he's thinking of big revolutions, working class countries, he was thinking more along the lines of places like Britain and Germany and so on, maybe France. But but places that had very large industrialized working classes. He wasn't thinking of somewhere like Russia, this was, he definitely wouldn't have been thinking along the lines of Russia.
Europe, where he was free to hang out with other Russian Marxists and talk about how great communism was. Now today, you might hear the word communism and think of this. But that's not how intellectuals living under a tough czarist regime saw it. To them,
yeah, what I said a minute ago, yeah.
Communism promised a land where all were equal, where workers weren't exploited.
No, is that fucking Joe Exotic and Carol Baskin in the background? Oh boy. Oh, okay.
And even people like you could get a girlfriend. So Lenin joined a party of Russian communists living in Europe, and he founded a communist newsletter that was smuggled into Russia to try to radicalize the people. However, not everyone in the Socialist Party agreed with Lenin. In fact, they disagreed with him on a lot of issues, and Lenin was so...
Yeah, now the Russian Social Democratic Labour Party. Now, I know there was a time when Lenin was in London for a brief period. I think it was around then that there was a newspaper called Iskra, which was being called Spark, which was being smuggled into Russia. And but yeah, we're going to get to this. Obviously, the split in the Social Democratic Labour Party.
One compromising that he caused a split in the party. During one conference, a heated debate broke out, and Lenin was unwilling to give an inch. You big ignorant, half-witted, fatuous morons! Cereal is a soup! Listen, Lenin, you're a smart guy, but you have no idea what you're talking about. We're out of here. All in favor of cereal being a soup? Hey, would you look at that? We're in the majority. So Lenin set up a faction within the party he called the majority, or Bolshevik if you're speaking Russian. And the other faction became known as the minority, or Menshevik. And oddly, the majority were often in the minority, and the minority in the majority. The Mensheviks were less radical, whereas Lenin wanted the Bolsheviks.
Yeah, that's true. The Bolsheviks were very, very revolutionary, and I suppose the Mensheviks less so. I mean, they probably closer to a lot of more traditional social democratic kind of parties, I suppose. Interestingly, so one of the guys as well that initially does side with the Mensheviks is Leon Trotsky as well. He actually does side. I mean, in the actual Russian Social Democratic Labour Party didn't actually formally split. The two sections, they were technically all still the same party until like 1912 or something like that. Although, that they were split almost in all but name, but they didn't like formally split, if you know what I'm saying.
Bolsheviks to be loyal to him and his uncompromising ideas. And if you weren't loyal, well then you're going to get a big brain beatdown. Mensheviks worried that Lenin's attitude could lead to a one-man dictatorship. But come on, does this guy look like a dictator to you? For now, Lenin remained in Europe.
Foreshadowing.
Writing his socialist newspaper and impatiently awaiting an opportunity to overthrow the Tsar and bring communist utopia to Russia. Cool. A free hat? Who the heck are you? I'm definitely not a Russian secret police officer spying Marxists. Oh crap, I don't want secret police watching me. Then you, my friend, should use NordVPN. Do you like having your identity stolen? If yes, you need therapy. If no, you need NordVPN. NordVPN has thousands of super fast servers in 62 countries that you...
Like I said, I think of anyone who uses spots for their sponsors, OverSimplified are fantastic at it. So I'll let it play.
You can connect it to keep you and your data secure when using the web. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee and is now faster and more secure than ever with its brand new NordLynx technology. Have you quarantine binged all of your favorite shows on Netflix? Well, with NordVPN, you can watch the Australian version. Or is one of the greatest videos on YouTube still banned in your country?
Oh, yeah. That particular video, I won't say the name because I know YouTube doesn't like it, but the guy in Germany with the funny mustache in the 1930s, yeah, that video, we can't watch that in the UK.
You can now get NordVPN with 68% off a 2-year plan for only $371 per month, plus 1 month free. So click on nordvpn.com/oversimplified in the description below and get protected now. That's nordvpn.com/oversimplified. And as always, you'll be supporting my channel. So muchos arigatos, mon petit pois. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. A timid, easily swayed czar, a massive ill-tempered jerk, impatiently awaiting a communist revolution. And revolution was coming, but not in the way Lenin thought. Back in St. Petersburg, one of the Tsar's most skilled and influential advisors knew the country finally needed to catch up with the rest of Europe. Hey, Nick, we really got to industrialize. Get more factories and make some, I don't know, textiles or something. Won't that change the social fabric of Russia? Maybe. Hey, isn't it past your bedtime? But I haven't had my milk and snuggles yet. Will you snuggle me? Nicholas thought modernization was boring, but he let Sergei do his thing. And do his thing he did. He borrowed some money and got Russia some sexy factories. And you know what sexy factories means. Sexy workers. Dirt poor sexy workers. Long hours, low wages.
Yeah, and it's one of the great contradictions and so on with Russia, being the vast majority of Russia sort of being an agrarian sort of economics, but at the same time, like the biggest factory, I think the biggest factory in the world at the time, 1917, was the Patilov works, which is also, I think by then it was kind of the big citadel of Bolshevism as well by then as well. So this is real weird thing going on here, that you've got this rather small working class and large agrarian food. And I will say this, I don't want to get too much into political theory, but this will definitely inform some of Leon Trotsky's thinking about revolutions and so on. But I don't want to get into too much into things like political theory or anything here, because I don't overly want to do too much politics on this channel, but I know it's a weird thing which, to be fair, is a weird way to start out with the Russian Revolution, where it's almost, you've got to talk about it to a degree.
Disease-ridden factories, sleep in overcrowded dormitories with all your stinky worker friends, get your arms ripped off in a freak Russian doll accident. Conditions were terrible. But this growing working class wasn't about to take it lying down. They started to do what workers do best: strike. Despite Sergei's efforts, people in Russia still weren't.
We do that well. We can do that well. And again, this is the thing. You got this small group of workers and well, but they suddenly realised they got power in a way. They could. So when they act collectively, workers tend to figure this stuff out.
Weren't happy. Peasants were still poor. Liberals still wanted reform, and now the workers wanted better working conditions. And the problem with being an autocrat is that when everyone's unhappy, there's only one person to blame: you. The people hate me. What do I do? Ooh, I know. Why don't we find a weak and pathetic nation to go to war with? We'll win easily, and everyone will love me again. Why don't we just try treating the people better? As luck would have it,
oops, yeah. The classic old age thing. You want to just, we need to distract people. Let's start a war. And we'll let Oversimplified explain this, but let's just say this is not going to go well for Tsar Nicholas.
Opportunity for war was forming in the Far East. Russia wanted to expand its sphere of influence into northern China, and coincidentally, so did Japan. But Japan didn't really want war, so they proposed an idea to reduce the tension. Hey man, we'll let you do your thing in Manchuria if you let us do our thing in Korea. I don't think so. We've got the largest army in the world. What do you have? I'm the Emperor of Japan. I have a giant mecha suit. Whoa. Cool. Nicholas and the boys didn't see Japan as a threat, so they felt they could push Japan around. But little did they know, Japan had been rapidly militarizing, and when they launched a surprise attack on a Russian fleet at Port Arthur, everyone was shocked. Nicholas hoped it was an opportunity to win a quick...
The Russian Navy gets absolutely hammered by the Japanese Navy. Japan obviously might have been a bit of a smaller country sort than Russia, but Japan was modernizing a lot quicker than Russia at this time. So,
quick war and regain the support of the people. Nobody seriously thought a puny Asian country could defeat a European superpower, and the Russian people were filled with patriotic spunk. Hey everyone, we're at war with Japan! Hey everyone, we're losing the war. The Japanese won, an embarrassing defeat for Tsar Nicholas. Russia had enough problems, but now it had been internationally humiliated. The public were outraged. Unrest increased. Nicholas needed snuggles now more than ever. The tension was rising rapidly, and Russia was on the verge of revolution. All it needed was one disaster to push it over the edge, and that disaster would come in January 1905 from an unlikely source, a handsome Orthodox priest named Father Gapon. Father Gapon was leading work.
Yes, yeah, this would be, the tension's building, but what's about to happen here, this is the sort of, this is the thing that lights the fuse really on a 1905 revolution. What's about to happen here.
And their families to the Winter Palace. But this wasn't some violent uprising, it was a peaceful protest. They wanted to deliver a petition to Nicholas, which simply asked for more freedom and better working conditions. The protest was actually so peaceful and respectful that the Marxists thought it was a big waste of time. Hey Nicholas, some priest is leading a peaceful protest. Says here they want to give you a petition. A peaceful petitioning priest? I better get out of here. Nicholas had actually left the Winter Palace days earlier, and in his place they brought in a truckload of troops, ordered to stop Father Gapon from reaching the palace. Hello, good sir, and long live the Tsar. Please, allow me to pass this simple petition to our dear father, Nicholas II. Good day to you too. Please, allow us to respond by opening fire. What began as a peaceful protest ended in tragedy. Imperial soldiers opened fire on the crowd. Around 200 civilians died, 800 more were wounded. All they wanted was the opportunity to ask Nicholas to improve their lives. Instead, they were met with bullets.
Yeah, and even if, like, the thing is, even if the Tsar wasn't there and didn't order it, again, you can argue what Nicholas's response isn't great. Remember what he said there in this video? When you're an autocrat, there's only one person to blame. It's you. And, you know, even if Nicholas wasn't there, this is the point of it now is his stock amongst his own people is very low at this moment. They think these guys don't care about us at all, you know. So
Nicholas didn't personally order the troops to fire, but as an autocrat,
true.
He got the blame.
Exactly.
The event became known as Bloody Sunday, and Nicholas's reputation plummeted. Strikes erupted across the empire. Workers' demands increased. Liberals demanded political power. Peasants demanded land. The country was out of control, and the 1905 revolution had begun. Listen, Nicholas, peasants seizing my land and murdering my family I can tolerate, but illegally chopping my wood, that's obscene. And the worse I treat my workers, the more they strike. I don't get it. Everyone relax.
Yeah, funny how that works, isn't it?
As long as the military is still on my side, there's nothing to worry about. Sir, the sailors are starting a mutiny. Well, my life just sucks.
Okay, yeah, so I believe what he's saying is, I believe he's referring to the Potemkin mutiny in the famous ship in the Black Sea Fleet. If anyone's ever seen the Eisenstein film Potemkin, which is, you know, yeah, obviously very much a bit of early Soviet propaganda, but a fantastically made film. You know, it's still a classic to this day. But yeah, there was a famous mutiny on Potemkin, the battleship Potemkin.
Just still losing to the Japanese. Unrest was growing in the military, and some sailors had even taken to killing officers. Having the people against you was bad enough, but if the military joined in, it would be game over. To make matters worse, in October, workers and Marxists, including one Leon Trotsky, began setting up local elected councils called Soviets that coordinated strikes and supplied the workers. Sergei could see the writing on the wall. Things were going south fast.
Yeah, so Soviets, yes, these were essentially workers' councils and so on. Now, remember I said earlier that Trotsky wasn't actually a member of the Bolshevik party at this time. He actually wouldn't join them until 1917. And the Bolsheviks were actually a little bit they were actually a bit suspicious of these like workers' councils, these Soviets at first. It's by 1917 their attitudes changed a bit. But yeah, it's kind of interesting because I think a lot of people think that the Soviets were like a creation of Lenin and so on. It's not true.
and he needed a big idea to save the Tsar. And luckily, he had just that. You see, all these angry people from different parts of society weren't really working together, meaning there was a weakness to exploit. Sergei wrote a manifesto that would give the liberals an elected assembly called the Duma. It took some convincing, but eventually, Nicholas agreed to share power and have his laws approved by an elected assembly. Hey, liberals, here's your stupid manifesto. Happy now? We certainly are. But what about these guys? Aren't you going to give them what they want? Oh, goodness no. I was just going to kill them. With the liberals satisfied, and after ending the war with Japan, the Tsar brought thousands of troops home, who then dismantled the Soviets.
Nothing. Okay, I don't want to get into too much politics. I'll just say nothing changes with liberals, I'm afraid. I'll leave it at that.
Arrested their leaders and crushed the peasant uprisings in the countryside. And how about that pesky parliament Nicholas had agreed to share power with? Well, he then wrote a bunch of new laws, which basically said, hey, remember that manifesto I wrote and how you guys were going to approve my laws? Slight change of plan. Actually, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want, and you guys are going to shut up. What? The people won't stand for this. People? What people? You know, this is why people don't like you. And just like that, Nicholas had survived the 1905 revolution. But wait, a revolution? In Russia? Where was Lenin? Well, Lenin and his communist pals were still in exile. He tried desperately to radicalize the...
That's right. I believe they were in they were in Switzerland at the time. Yeah.
The uprising, but all he could do was watch as the movement failed to organize. The liberals sold out the poor, and the Tsar outplayed the people. Furious, he believed Russia had missed a great chance for a real revolution. From now on, he felt the only way left was an armed revolution by the workers. Watching the events of 1905 unfold, Lenin learned a lot. The Tsar, however, would prove to have learned nothing. After the 1905 revolution had failed, the Tsar's new top man was Pyotr Stolypin, and he...
Very, very true. Very true. Yeah, Bolsheviks definitely learned an awful lot out of 1905. Can't deny that.
He had big ideas to prevent any more chaos. Step 1, reform agriculture. This will make the peasants love you. And step 2, will kill anyone who doesn't. To discourage any more revolutionary ideas, Stolypin began to crack down even harder on the Tsar's opponents, and thousands were sentenced to death. The noose even earned itself a new nickname, Stolypin's necktie. I don't get it. Oh, I see, because it goes around my neck. That's so funny. But despite many
oh, they are quite funny. They are funny.
Positive reforms were also being made, and the Russian economy even began to improve. This was a problem for Lenin. If the people weren't suffering, then they wouldn't support a revolution. Still in exile and lacking funds, the Bolsheviks simply weren't in a position to do anything. Luckily, it was around this time that Lenin met an incredible...
Okay, I think we're getting to Stalin here, but again, yes, Lenin wrote quite a bit about actual conditions necessary for a revolution. I'm trying to think. I'm sure I've got a copy of it up here, which is, yeah, hold on. Let me have a little look here for a second. I do have a copy of this. Yeah, he wrote a lot of it in this little book, State and Revolution. So, right, where were we again? Oh, have I lost my layout? I've lost my layout all of a sudden. Aha, there we are. I think we've got it back again, have we? Yeah, I think we have it. I think we've got our layout back. Okay. Right. StreamYard's being a bit funny today.
Really handsome Georgian with his second favorite historical mustache, Joseph Stalin. Lenin and Stalin met at a communist convention in Finland, and Lenin liked Stalin because he was a real go-getter and was great at fundraising for the Bolsheviks. And by fundraising, I mean kidnapping, robbing,
bank robbing,
ransoming, assassinating, prison breaking, stealing, bank raiding, executioning, and stealing again. Hey Stalin, the Mensheviks aren't so hot on all this stealing, but we still need money. So the next time you do a big heist, just do it quietly. Okay, quietly. Got it. If this isn't quiet, I don't know what it is. Stalin's wacky antics eventually got him exiled to Siberia, but he...
Yeah, I mean, I do think, should say, there's a bit of, I think there's a bit of an idea about Stalin being Lenin's right-hand man throughout all this period. I don't know about that. You know, I don't know about that at all. I mean, he certainly was a powerful figure within the Bolshevik Party. I mean, he was on the Central Committee of the Bolshevik Party, so you can't say that he was really a no one either. But that's all I'll say on
He
that.
established himself as a big balls Bolshevik. However, no amount of Bolshevik goals could stop what was happening. The Russian economy was making a recovery. For the Tsar, things were looking up. This is great. All Nicholas has to do is sit back and not mess anything up. Hey everyone, big news. I'd like to introduce you to my new best friend. He's a crazy, drunken, beardy, horny scamp.
Rasputin. Yeah. Dear.
Yeah. Magic wizard man, and he smells like a goat. We're screwed. Rasputin. A dirt poor peasant from dirt poor nowhere. But unlike the other dirt poor peasants, Rasputin had holy healing powers. And when this holy mystic wandered into St. Petersburg,
as we said, allegedly,
people began to notice. He quickly became famous, and word of this mystery man and his healing hands made its way to the royal palace. The appearance of a holy homeless healer was of great interest to the Tsar and his wife. As far as royals go, they weren't that inbred, but they were just inbred enough for their son Alexei to get hemophilia, or in layman's terms, Mamma mia, that's a lot of blood. No Rasputin could...
crikey, yeah. So Alexei, they had quite a few daughters to Nicholas out in Alexandria, but they only had that one son, Alexei, who was ill and with hemophilia. And sort of the rules of succession in Russia, that they had to make sure, that none of the daughters were really, really counted. So, I mean, I think even our own monarchy sort of recently changed all that. I think to a degree. I'm not, not quite sure if it still applies in Britain or not. But yeah, it's the male heir is the one who's supposed to inherit. So.
Heal people. In 1906, Alexander asked for Rasputin to come and see if he could cure their son. And crazy as it sounds, Rasputin did heal Alexei, possibly by taking him off his doctor-prescribed aspirin.
You got a kid with hemophilia. Taking them off a medication that's going to thin the blood a little bit isn't a bad idea.
Seemingly done the impossible, Rasputin became very, very close to the royal family. But having a crazy homeless wizard man hanging around wasn't a good look for the Tsar, because Rasputin was freaky. Not only was he a big fan of alcohol, but he'd also throw these crazy parties with Russian nobility, where he'd and all night long, and then he'd his whole head, not a guy's. And nobody knew how the goat got on the roof. Initially, the press were banned from talking about Rasputin, but eventually, the ban was lifted, and the tabloids went to town. The whole thing was a huge scandal, and everyone was freaked out that this guy was influencing the Tsar and his wife. Nicholas could have spent this period of relative peace improving his image. Instead, he spent it doing this. But as weird as the whole Rasputin thing was, so long as the economy continued to improve and the people's lives kept getting better, maybe Nick would be okay. Maybe there would be no more revolutions. Maybe this video could even end right here. Or maybe things were about to get worse. A lot worse. You see, the year is 1914, and that means it's time for World War I.
Okay, so that was part one of OverSimplified's Russian Revolution. As I said, once again, please go and support OverSimplified. They do some brilliant stuff. There's some bits there I knew a bit about. There's definitely some areas with that. My own knowledge is a little sketchy, like Rasputin and so on. Know one or two things, but so almost a doctor. My friend Matt in the chat there. That scene with Stalin going in guns blazing is not really exaggeration. He started an open gunfight with a Royal Mail coach. Yes, I believe I did hear. I did hear that he did something like that. Yes. Okay, I'll probably wrap it up there. I'll try and do part two at some point later this week, either tomorrow or the next couple of days, and we'll come back and finish this off. But do us a favor, do the usual things, like, share, subscribe, get this channel off to a good start if I can. Okie doke. And yeah, again, please go and please support OverSimplified. They do some fantastic content as well. They're not always regularly putting stuff out, but like I said, there's a lot of work goes into their content, and that, you know, there's only one or two of them in there. So, okay. So that was my first ever live stream on this new channel. This is Jeff, aka Scummer. Shall see you all later. Salute.